All right. Good morning. Thank you for investing your time coming here. I will start off by saying that it's great to see you, and also that it's great to be the one out of 3 speakers beginning this great event. I think this is a wonderful community. Everybody comes with a giving attitude, and it really makes this a great conference and a great place. And I wanted to, thank the organizers and celebrate that before I start. So, my name is. Maybe to start with some ideas for today to set the attitude. Get ready to experiment. We will move quickly. We have a lot to cover. But my assumption is that, and I can see all of you are very focused, and you've spent years and years educating yourselves. So my idea for this talk is for us to try together as many things as we can, so that you feel the ownership of these new skills, or perhaps you already know these skills, but use them in a new setting, so that you have like a seed planted in your mind, and then when you go home and you read about it, it's something that you can relate to that you've already tried. This is the idea. So don't be worried if we're moving fast, or if something's not completely clear from the outset. Just go with it, try it, try first, ask questions later, study later. These things are not too difficult, and the purpose is to either learn or to cultivate your ability to ship, because in the end, that's what matters. Please make friends with those around you. Please connect and collaborate, and this is also going to bring more value for you from this time. Lots of like-minded, brilliant people here, so take advantage of that. It's a special set of 3 days. Okay, so my name's Michal, I come from Poland, and that's our heritage of the name Michael, and so you can call me Michael or Michal, that's how you spell it. I've been a data science consultant and data science, data engineering, also a bit of software engineering and orchestrating services. Started out in the academic environment, did some mobile phone data research, like discovering like patterns of transportation and the different kinds of behavior, and modeling it and understanding what's going on there. Smart meter data as well. I've moved on to commercial consulting and have been doing well since then. I'm a husband and a dad as well. I feel like I need to say it, because otherwise you're going to think, who is this high school kid talking to you? This child prodigy advising investment banks. No, I took my time to learn stuff, so I just kept the youthful appearance. Jokes aside, the human part of me is here as well. I like these things and more. And it's a pleasure to meet you. I look forward to speaking. If you have time later to catch up, it will be great to meet you. And moving on from there, back to the welcome slide. I really feel that, the things you can learn are changing so quickly. Like a few years ago, who heard of, PyTorch in 2015 or Kubernetes in 2015, 16? And these days they're being so widely used. So it seems that, spending years in a university learning things is great. It's still very wonderful. But there's a need to acquire specialized knowledge quickly. And also with that comes the conundrum of validating your credentials. So how do you learn things quickly in a specialized way? There's businesses coming up that solve that, like the Lambda School, for example. But there's also, like, how do I show my diploma from that? And my thesis here is that your portfolio is your diploma. So hence why my motivation to let us try stuff and really, move quickly, try a lot of things, and get you to ship your stuff. And like, I'm sure many of you are experts in contributing things to your businesses, to open source. And still, like, I feel like that sharpening the edge and becoming better at shipping, at designing solutions that not only come from the analytical genius, but also like let people use what you have that makes a huge difference. So yeah, just to encourage you to do as much as you can, and not pay too much attention if something doesn't make complete sense now. You can watch the video again, do it at home again. Yeah. Okay, so these are the high-level steps. We have a lot to cover. We're going to make an end-to-end situation, starting with consuming data from a live service. We're going to use Reddit, and here a disclaimer: if you see any messages that offend you, I'm sorry. This is Reddit. I wish there wasn't messages that offend you or that you weren't offended by them, but yeah. We're dealing with live data, and I think it's part of the benefit, but also has some drawbacks. Then we're going to learn how to launch and integrate a message queue service really quickly to prototype our solution, and enable us to separate the different roles and cultivate this mindset of like designing a system of elements rather than one giant stepwise solution in one Py file or one notebook. Then we're going to subscribe and do some pre-processing of the text, serve a machine learning model for NLP, and then publish this to the messaging app, which in this case is Telegram. Telegram is very easy to set up for development. It also has some encryption features if you're interested in that. For me, the richness of the API is what has drawn me to use it and to propose it. But hopefully you'll be able to experiment with other bots as well. And also keep your ideas. As you see potential ways of improving this prototype, please note them down, please have them ready, and make them part of your plan for how to enhance something that you, because I want you to leave this room with a system that you have a plan of improving and that you can make your own. You can make it do something for you that you care about. Like, for example, I don't know, see what stocks people talk about and why, and be notified, just so you can like try and invest in things that, I don't know, just another stream, or whatever, you follow Twitter for some reason and you have some piece of information that you want to extract from there and be notified in a special way that Twitter doesn't serve, or any other thing. So I want you to have your ideas, write them down, and make it really active, because I think studying and learning and improving is an active process, and I just want to put that, spark, make it more. Your enthusiasm and in initiative to come here is wonderful, and let's keep the momentum. So finally, we'll organize that into a bunch of services that work together and are easily servable. So you'll be able to start the whole orchestra with one command, thanks to Docker Compose. Okay, so like I said, let's just move quickly, and I'll try to fit in some time for questions. I hope you have had a chance to look at the requirements file. So this is it. Just to verify maybe quickly. Oh, I also wanted to ask, so who here feels that they're advanced and this is like more interesting to them rather than lots of new things? I want to know who feels that they own this space already. Can you raise your hand? Can I get a show of hands? Don't be too humble. I just wanted to say that I'm not assuming that you don't know any of these things, but at every session or at every, maybe even one conference, you'll get one or two things, main things that you'll take away. You'll probably not have a million things. It's that one thing that you can take to your work or take to your business and make a difference. So be on the lookout for that one thing. Even if you're an expert, I hope you'll take at least one interesting thing, and that will basically elevate how fast you move forward and make life easier for you. Cool. So that aside, who has done the prep steps? Excellent. So those, notice who raised their hand around you, and like if you're in trouble, go and ask them. Otherwise, there will be. So if you saw the Git repo has directories that are steps. So if you want, I can push the steps as they are being fulfilled, so that you can forget the past step if it didn't work and move forward. So essential is Anaconda Python and the repo, and then hopefully you had the environment. Yeah, Conda environments, super important. There's a lot to be said about Conda. It's really good as as a package to deliver, especially if you work for corporations. It's easier to convince executives to like get one license for one thing and approve one thing rather than approve 50 different modules. But for us, like the users of this technology, I still remember that long summer afternoon when I don't know, it was probably was, I don't remember the season, but in 2015, 16, I tried to use Cafe, this neural network framework, and I spent so much time installing dependencies and different binaries, and I was trying to install them natively on the Mac, and the Mac just like disallowed relative paths and for security, and in the end I spent so much time configuring the environment rather than trying out the framework. And like I think this is where Conda really shines. It installs binaries, even of things that are outside of the Python world, without the need for building it. So if you like want to download, one of the dependencies was JSONNet, and for some of you it didn't install, I heard, but JSONNet is a dependency of Allen NLP, which is this great framework for building, like using deep learning for NLP. And yeah, if you install it with pip, it will like mumble that you need to kind of have this compiler or that thing, and it'll fail building, and every little thing that delays action will basically take your time away from what you want to do. So and also it makes like telling others what dependencies are needed easier. So I hope you notice those benefits, and I want to encourage you to use Conda environments. Okay, so step one will be to build the consumer. So if you have the repository checked out, if you navigate there in the command line and start Jupyter Lab, or rather, let me do it first. Zoom in. That's one giant window. Is that visible? Let me do even more. Ooh. Okay, so I want to do Conda activate NLP workshop, which is the name of this environment. Okay, you can see by the name here that it's activated. And I would like to now start Jupyter Lab. Who is familiar and who is using Jupyter Lab? Oop. There we go. Not this browser. Can I get a show of hands, Jupyter Lab users? Okay, great. So I was expecting more of us, but that's fine. That means more of us can learn about it. So Jupyter Lab, what it is basically a very powerful innovation that takes console interactivity to the next level by maintaining the history. And it basically lets you tell a story with both code and explanation and visualization and data, and it's excellent for prototyping, for telling stories. Some people even use it like just as code files and launch them. So we're going to use it now here. We're going to zoom in. And we have our, so there's a Jupyter Notebook, which is the classical. You can see it when you go to tree. And then you have like one notebook per page. And Lab appeared around version 5 of IPython, I believe. And what Lab does, it gives you the power of Phosphor.js, multiple different windows that you can create. So let's go here to step 1, consumer and queue, and open PRA. So PRA is the Reddit API, which we'll be using. And I hope you have got your API keys. If you don't have them, please get them. It's really easy and quick. Follow the link in the README. You will need to go. So the beauty of Jupyter Lab, have a look. I just went back to the launcher and launched terminal. And I have like pro and terminal side by side. So I'll go to terminal and do lsal, and you can see I have this .env file, which is where I can keep my environment variables. I can have .env listed in git ignore, and I will avoid the fallacy of committing my security credentials into version control, which always one person in the project does. So don't be that person. And a helper for that is python.env, which then gets imported as .env. It loads from that file and populates the environment variables. So boom, I have it loaded now, and I can start the consumer. I can get env and get my Reddit ID, Reddit secret, and come up with the user agent. Okay, and then I have my Reddit consumer, and now I want to connect to a subreddit and consume comments as they appear live. So I invoke consumer.subreddit, and I'm using stocks. Another one that's safe to use is suggest me a book. Books aren't aggressive or political. Some of them are, but it's still a book, and I want us to avoid the heated political topics and still have the benefit of consuming a live source. So now what we want to do is just get some messages. So let's say the way to do that, we can set up a stream, and we can say for comment in subreddit stream comments print comment break. I want to break because I want to just see one comment, see what it looks like. Okay, you can see I'm just getting the ID. So what I want to do here is I probably want to do more, and I've prepared the helper method in the extract. So what I can do, I can from extract, which is here in the local directory, I can import, and what can I import? I can import extract post or extract comment. Reddit has different streaming for comments and for submissions. So we're going to use comments. If you want, just swap this for submissions and swap this for extract post. But I'm going to import, and now I'm going to do extract comment, wait for one to come. Okay, yeah. How to make money in stocks. Someone is talking about a book. And we can see the created UTC, so the timestamp, the text, the ID, upvotes, and author. We're going to stick with text. And what we want to do now is we want to start our system. So let's have this consumer get messages, extract them, put them on a queue, and we'll figure out what happens next in the next chapter, because we want to isolate this idea. The benefit of that will be, maybe I even have it in a slide, but I'm going to tell you anyway. No, I don't. Is we can then have one download and plug in many services to consume that. That's one of the benefits. Another is some person can, some of our teammates or ourselves can work on it in isolation. Cool. So moving forward, let's speed up. So another helper from, just do import MQ, which is some helper functions for message queuing, which in this case is just putting it on there. And let's also import, let's do that. MQ. So the reason we use that is it's an object, and we want to serialize it to JSON. But that makes me remember that what we want to do now is we're going to open Redis IPYMB, the other notebook. And here, if you want to use a solution for storing data, or you want to connect to something, again, you don't want to waste time setting it up, and you want it reusable, you want it easy to set up, you want your friends to use it as well. So what we are going to use here is just instead of installing Redis, configuring it, setting up a path, and so forth, we're just going to download a Docker which contains an image of a machine that has just Redis and serves it. So it's very easy. The way we do it is we just say what image we want to use, Redis on Alpine Linux, which is the super low weight Linux. Name the container like so, map the port, and it's going to map to our local host. So there we go. Now I have Redis, and it's running, and I can connect to it. So now I'm going back to my other notebook, and I can import Redis, which is a Python module. Call it r equals redis.redis. I don't need to specify any parameters because I'm going to use defaults. And it connected. If I hadn't had the Docker on, it would tell me there's no Redis there. And now my MSG is this. Then I can print MSG, let's say MQ, serialized message data, MSG. Let's print one. There we go. It just added extra, wrapping. It's JSON. Now it's JSON. It's a string. It can go on the pipe. And what we do next is let's also import TQDM, which is this fantastic progress bar solution. And just wrap this around so we know how many comments went through. And then r.publish, Redis publish to the comments, and then MSG. And let's just run it. Okay, we've got one. It's going to keep populating, but there we go. We have a service going. Okay, we have 100. So it actually pulls 100 the first time you launch it, and then that's your rate, and then you're going to get them as they come. So let me just go back to here. We've done this, nice and clean. We didn't have to spend any time configuring it, which is great, and we got all the benefit, which is even better. And then I think I talked about this important idea to modularize things. That makes it a system. Instead of having one Py file with many functions or multiple Py files, we have like something that can be chunked and tested separately, makes it easier to orchestrate, removes duplication of use. And easier to work on it as a team. So let's move to step 2. We'll go back to the lab. Click the little home. Click step 2. Open the consumer. So I'm having a bunch of small consoles here. I'm going to import Redis again, use pub/sub, subscribe to comments. Going to import MQ. And let's get one message. So that now what I need to do is I need to wait for a message to come. But to that end, to avoid having to wait, I have created a helper, pipe test message. So I can just invoke it, Python, pipe test message, hello with many O's. And you can see it came through. So we don't have to wait for the messages to come. We can test our system, but some messages will come anyway. Actually, they are coming still. We can see maybe we're sharing the Wi-Fi, distributed denial of service. Okay, and what we want to do now is we want to do some basic cleaning. There should be extensive cleaning, so if you have ideas, write them down, think about how you enhance it. But for now, let's use some of the things I prepared. There's some things here in pre-processing, message to sentences, replace URLs, add spaces, remove useless spaces. Some of them I have taken from the excellent Fast AI course pre-processing library, so you can have a look there as well, but we'll talk about it later. For now, we're just going to remove URLs, swap them with URL tag using regular expression matching of markdown for URLs, and then we're going to also chunk it into sentences. So going to discover entities later in that text. And we want to have entities that appeared in a sentence and then discover what's the sentiment of that sentence. And that's just like a basic use case, very simplistic approach to sentiment. Everybody, how you can express sentiment in one number or say it's good or bad. We'll get to that, but that's the basic premise. I think it's robust enough to try something, but also basic enough to improve, which I hope you will do when you go home. Cool. So import pre-processing. There we go. And I want to do, I have the MSG, and I need to do mq.read message data. And now I just have the content, and I can see the text is in hello. Sorry, the text is in text. So that's how I need to get it. So I need to go to here and do exactly that. MQ, read message data. And also get the text only. Pre-processing dot replace URLs. Just one thing, text. You can see type annotations at work. Text is a string, and it returns a string. It's just a hint unless you use MyPy or some other type checker. So MSG text equal. And then I want to split sentences. Right, again, takes text, and also I want to accept only sentences of a minimum character length. That's an optional parameter. It's 5 for me, but feel free to change it to -1. No, just feel free to change it if you want, and then return sentences. So I'm declaring this, and maybe let me try this function, process message, MSG. Yes, there's no sentences there. What is a new? How am I not relaxed? Am I not relaxed? Process message, just one sentence. Seems to work. Yeah, it works. So, process message, I'm going back to my loop where I'm listening. Process message post. And then let's just print it. Hello, I am relaxed. Why are you not convinced? I should make that a string. Okay, works. I've got a list of 3 different sentences. So let's now, for sentence in, let's call it sentences. For S in sentences, Reddit, publish, channel name processed, MQ let me break the line. MQ, serialize message data. S. That's it. Actually, I don't need to do that because anyway, it's going to be just one string. So I don't need the JSON serialization in this case. But let's do it anyway, just for safety, in case you change it. Oh, why don't we use TQDM? So now, as I broke this loop, I need to resubscribe. So I will relaunch the first cell, and I can run it again. I have my nice progress bar. My first progress bar. Not too many people commenting on stocks, so I hope if you chose a different subreddit, it's more active. But we've got a consumer, and we're processing messages, and I could paste the URL, actually. Maybe let's just paste this URL. You see, it got replaced with a token. URLs are not too fun to, I mean, they can contain value, but you want to have a strategy for them, right? Otherwise, it's just lots of slashes and colons, and you don't want that. Great. So I'm happy we are moving fast. Step 3. So bring your own model. I'm very glad that the conference organizers were really clever, and they've done the next talk. I don't know if Jeff and Susan are here, but I think I've got the name right. They're giving the next presentation in the same room. So if you want to have a menagerie of models, come for their talk. I hope it's good. I actually don't know them, but I hope it's great. And the assumption here is that you have a model that you developed. It's already doing its job. It's doing it well. It's signed off by important executives wearing suits and ties, and it's ready to use. So we're not going to, do any. We're just assuming that it's a ready model. So let's go to the directory, step 3. And here I have prepared 2 things. If you have prepared for the workshop, you might have used my hacky bash script. No. So this uses Google Drive, and Google Drive requires you to get a cookie before you download a big file. It's a 300 megabyte file. So let's do distributed denial of service in Google Drive and download this fast AI trained model right now. Launch it, I'll talk, and I hope it downloads in time. If it doesn't download in time, what you need to do is launch terminal and do a cd step 3. And then sh download, it's going to download this model. Or open the sentiment notebook and hit this line over here. Cool. But we have a fallback, so don't worry if it doesn't work. It will work at home. Let's close it for now. Right, let's close this terminal too. I can close my Redis window too, because the container works, just to keep it less confusing. So next step is we want to use the excellent Spacey package. There was just Spacey IRL hosted in Berlin. I encourage you to follow the contributors who created Spacey. They're excellent engineers and also very good business people, and very generous. They've made this very widely used NLP solution called Spacey. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. If you look at Spacey, if you look at the source code, it contains beautiful things such as Python objects that have like attributes that are in C memory, so that dramatically improves processing speed, and it's just a great thing to learn from and also to use for NLP. So we're going to use basic small model. It just weighs 10 megabytes. It's trained on English. That's how you download it. I already had it. How would you know? Import Spacey, and let's load this model. If you swap SM for MD, you're going to get a larger but more robust model, and then a LG as well. And you can go and Google their full capabilities. And let's try do NLP, apply this model on, actually the NLP object creates, like, takes text, runs a pipeline of things on it, and produces an object that has properties that have different meaningful things. So I'm piping this message through NLP, and I'm creating this doc object, and I can do type doc. It's a spacey doc. The pipeline that I applied, so it's a tagger, dependency parser, so part of speech tagger, dependency parser, and entity recognizer, and there's more, but those are already great. What we are after here is entities, and I have some entities, perhaps at a level that is more granular than I wanted. I could train my own model that is trained on tagged data, which I really care about, so sequence tagging. Also, another beautiful thing that is interesting here is noun chunks. It's a generator, so I need to do a list. Yeah, so it's there's actually noun chunks, so might be interesting for you too. And if I do, here's the Jupyter trick. I can see everything it's got printed out. I can see everything that starts with a C that it's got printed out. Did you know that? Who knew that? I know, right? Made my day when I found it out. Okay. Cool. So let's add it as a new step to the pipeline. Import MQ, subscribe to processed, and let's listen in. Print sentence, break. Let's test it. No sentence is coming. Redditors are sleeping. Hello. There's another one. I am relaxed. Why aren't you not convinced? And I'm waiting for another one. Let's go with, by default, it's going to pipe this. So what I want to do now is just use what I've done here. Doc equals NLP sentence, and this equals doc ends. What you want to be careful about is that the elements of this list will be spacey span objects. Those look like strings, taste like strings. You would think they're strings, but they are span objects. And if you want to JSON serialize them, you're going to have an error, unless you use what I've done here. So use a special encoder that will detect those magic span objects and turn them into strings. So if you import MQ from here, you're safe. Okay, so let's say let's publish it. Output, or let's call it like this, output dict, and now confusing ents or entities. What am I doing? Okay. R publish to a channel NER. We're creating our third channel. What's nice about it, you do NER once, and you can like subscribe multiple models to it and have them run in parallel, compare the results, log this stuff. It's pretty sweet once you have a system, right? And it's easy to extend. Modular. Publish this, and MQ serialized message data output. Oh, TQDM. Yes. There's no entities in that sentence. Pigs are not entities. Let's move on to the sentiment. We're hitting halftime. Would you like to ask any questions at this point? I'm excited. That probably means that things are clear enough, and you can also catch me later. Buy me beers, and I'll answer questions. No, just kidding. We can just chat. Now, this probably can fail for you, but it will not fail when you try it hard enough with good internet connection. But that's also where conda environments and Docker files are so useful, because when you advance to more complicated models, those usually have dependencies both on many packages and concrete versions of those packages. And if you change a version by one step, who knows, maybe part of the API changed and it's not reproducible enough. Your code doesn't work anymore, and you share it with someone, doesn't work for them, you put it in production, doesn't work. So what you want to do is use those things and save yourself time. Don't waste time configuring things, don't waste time doing things that are not meaningful in the long run. So let's use environments, Docker, and so forth. We need FastAI version exactly this. And it's an excellent, wonderful course prepared by Jeremy Howard and Rochelle Thomas. And Sylvain Guger. They are out of San Francisco, I believe. And they've just made a very accessible course to learn about the power of neural nets. It's just some calculus, and it's not really that sophisticated. It's very creative use of this math, but it's like not that you have to learn a bunch of things. You just need to learn a few things and try them and use them. So I highly encourage you. As a matter of fact, we should probably catch up about this. Who's heard of FastAI? Nice. Yeah, great. Half of you. Great. Amazing. Who's done FastAI? All right. Good. Are you happy about it? Did you like it? Yeah? Do you use it? Okay. Yeah, cool. Great. So we're going to use it now, if it works. Did the model download for you? Oh, no. Okay, so this is taken from lesson 3, trained on IMDb movie reviews, just 2 classes, positive or negative, because that's what you can be, right? No, people are either one bucket or another. No, just kidding. So you can download it like this here. I won't try it. I'll just go and copy it from my super secret directory. Oh no. Let's CD. Okay. So now I have this here. Did you know that you can execute shell commands in Jupyter with the exclamation mark? So that's what we're going to do. On tower. This model depends on, I need to recreate it, so I'm going to rename the directory. I have a model directory now. I'm loading the data. It's like they have an object called data bunch. It helps with training, serving batches of data, also holding information about classes, and so forth. And there's a learner. A learner is a clever object that takes a model and a data and lets you find things like optimal learning rate, and which is one of the hyperparameters, and then also run different schedules and cycles of learning that they have really iterated on. They actually competed on speed of, like they wanted to train a neural, an architecture of, on a known data set. I think it was CFAR or one of the other image data sets, and they were competing for speed, who reaches certain accuracy first. And they were winning with much bigger institution. Like they won with a Google submission, and just a group of independent people, just like we're here. So it's pretty amazing, this library and the course itself. So just going to initialize it. Load the model, put it PyTorch it's PyTorch under the hood. So PyTorch, you can like set the model into evaluation mode, so to remove all the dropout layers and so forth, and make it not calculate the gradients, just so it executes faster. So I have an example negative message, which says, I don't know why I keep focusing on negative things, because and I want to predict the sentiment, and it's a negative sentiment, 91% sure, 92%, and then of course I love this workshop, right? And then it's positive, 96% sure. So I've written a little helper here, which is going to just run it for us and keep the score in the class and return it so we can pass it further down the pipe. And let's try again. Yeah, this is just the output. So this category is a special type, and then this is a PyTorch tensor of dimension 1 and PyTorch tensor of dimension 2. So I don't want to get bogged down serializing this into a Redis format. I'll just subscribe to named entity recognition, import my MQ. If it didn't work for you, if it didn't download, you can use this as a placeholder, not to stop yourself from continuing on with the workshop. It will just provide a very smart prediction. I trained it on lots of data. Let's have a look. Print data and break. Oh no, I wanted to pipe. Yes. Okay, no entities. By no affiliation with John Travolta. So we have one entity here. As a matter of fact, let me go back to NER and only pass the message if there's an entity in it. So if len n is greater than 0, and I need to stop this pipe, resubscribe, relaunch, and now I will not see messages coming through that that didn't come through. And now if I send the one with John Travolta again, it just sent me one sentence. So just to save ourselves reading logs. Right, so let's do let's print so sentiment and score equals predict sentiment out of data sentence. Right. Okay, so it's very negative, but it works. So we can now, let's keep it. Let's say our output is then, let's pipe it for separate entities. So for E in entities, right? And our publish ready. I'm going to call the final channel ready because I'm assuming that I'm not doing anything more in this system at this point. I will do more. Please come up with ideas. I'm happy, really happy to hear your thoughts and ideas later on, and how you want to extend it or what do you want to do, because you can add more things, you can add more models, you can learn from the next speakers about different models you can use, and make it work. So MQ serialize output. Don't break. And let's do, no, this won't work, TQDM. Ooh, missed the comma there. Okay. So now we have 4 components living in my lab. It's a very professional setting, right? I can share it easily with anybody. Just take my lab. No, it's not reproducible, right? And I'm importing, I have the same MQ file in every directory. That's lame. Why don't I have it, why don't I have my features and functionalities bundled so that I can access the same code from many places? So that's what we're going to talk about next. And that's also what I think one of my parallel speakers is covering. So if you're interested in that more, probably you can watch this video. Let me just go here. Those are the links to FastAI and Spacey. Should definitely check both out. Probably more of you know Spacey than FastAI, but check both out. And FastAI just published an NLP course too. So cool. So step 4, moving beyond my lab. Some good books to recommend. You know this excellent publishing series? It's sarcasm, and I think it's funny. That's why I added it here. Basically a funny way of it's like a Dilbert for real occurrences in the office, right? Sometimes you open Dilbert and you're like, oh, it's so real, so real it hurts. So one of the phrases, it works on my machine, right? Figure it out. No, you want to make it easy for people to use your stuff, because that really matters. That will help you build meaningful relationships with people, learn from people, have people appreciate your work. Many a time I see very, very brilliant, very experienced and knowledgeable people who basically would achieve so much more if they just took one extra step and share their work or get more recognition. If you deal with executives, they don't know the different intricacies of the model. For them, it's just, okay, he knows and he's good. We're paying him enough to, or her, sorry. Ladies just as encouraged to participate. I think it's very nice that the code of conduct invites and celebrates, participation from everybody who wants. And also they've been kind enough to, my wife is here, and they have free childcare. I think it's really wonderful, and we feel much, I just feel great that they can be here, and I think it's wonderful. So I want to give an applause for the organizers. It's so wonderful and special. But going back to are my jokes funny? Import error, just don't move the files. If I move the MQ just one directory up, I can't import it anymore. You don't want that. We're going to deal with that by bundling. And let me just go back to the lab real quick. Go to step 4. And on the note of the consumer, let me use an example. So this is a module, just as you do pip install TQDM or pip install pandas. You can go to the repo and see the structure, but basically I have my module, all my code base here. So what I have here is this. Actually, let me go to the code editor. So I use VS Code and make it very large. perhaps too large. And go to bundling, and yeah, I can add git ignore, and list all the Python things I don't want to check in. Also my configuration files, big files like the model, my data set. I can do a conda environment. But the most important thing of making it a Python, like a pip installable situation, I'll always have a README, is to have setup.py, and have a look and feel free to critique this here example, but essentially you have this function here, which is setup. You can specify version, name, author, and when you create a package with this, oops, you are ready to publish it to pip, and other people can use it. You can publish it to your own pip, and people who you know can use it. People can build it from a Git path, not only from a wheel. So when you build it, it becomes a wheel, and you don't need, and your consumers don't need to build it. So just some like basic stuff, but it's really, really useful and goes a long way in making it easy for others to consume your work, to use your work. So what I want to use here today is things I actually learned from my colleague here, who's also Michal, conveniently. If you want to create that, sometimes you have these nice, neat modules that like create console command, like aliases, command line aliases that you can like launch, like, for example, one of, I don't know, like you do, let's say my NLP, do something. There is a way to make that happen here instead of py. You just need a keyword entry points, console scripts, and then you can create a name of the alias and point to what needs to get executed, and then you can launch it. So let me just maybe do step 4, ls. So if I do pip in Reddit consumer with this commented out, let me save. Processing, successfully built. Okay, successfully installed. So now I can go to IPython or Python and do from Reddit consumer import something that I want. But if I uncomment this and install again, then I can do this here, Reddit consumer, and it lives in my environment. So I can, there's a bug somewhere in there, but we're going to get to the bottom of this, mostly because I intend to showcase something more here. Cool, so let's go to Reddit consumer, and what you see here is just double underscore or dunder in it. And then you can have main, and you can have your pieces of code, and you can like import from these paths, just like you do from scikit-learn .optimizers, import this or that. You can build your own code. So let's go to main, and here's another thing that I want to showcase, which I also learned from my great colleague here, who's conveniently named Michal, is fire. So let's go import fire. I don't know if you have any experience doing like command line interfaces in Python, and some people use argparse or just like raw sys argv or say again? Click, so some of them are like really verbose, and you have to write a lot of boilerplate. So fire is an easy one. It just fires a method, or you can even fire a variable, but it fires a class in my case. In this, it's a stream consumer, and what I have here is def main, and I want to do fire.fire, and then stream consumer. That's it. So if I pip install with -e, I pip install it in editable mode, and so fire prints my usage for me automatically. If I had a doc string, it would print the doc string. The setup py points to main module dot dunder main, and then method main, or function main. So this then fires the stream consumer. And if I do std out, yeah. It's going to print errors to my std out. What's it going to do is do the Reddit message consumption and print it into this std out. But that's how you create a bundle. You just need like the init, which is empty, and you need your code, which you can move your code from your notebook or from your prototype or from your scattered directory. You can assign it versions. There's modules that make versioning easier. So highly recommend this way of working once you have figured out like your approach to bundle it up and version it. Very useful for sharing, very useful for keeping track of stuff. Very highly recommend it. Okay, so that's beyond my lab. And then step 5, this will be hopefully easy. Do you have the Telegram API key? Who's got one? Okay, one. If you don't, you might want to just like Google Telegram botfather and get one very quickly. It's super fast. You just say /start, answer 3 questions, and you get the API key. So that's another thing that I find staggering, how little sharing goes such a long way. When you're in a company and you make it easy for people to use your like what you build. You build a web app. You make it look a little bit beautiful or very beautiful, depending on how skilled you are in JS or in front-end design. But you can like start a bootstrap web page with some JS and serve your stuff through an API. And people in your office, people who don't have any knowledge of Python, just like use Excel all day, they can use your predictions, they can use your visualizations, and it's really impressive. They start to know what you're doing, trust what you're doing, and that gives you a lot of ability to then like go to them and share with them things that improve their day, that make their work easier. So I really highly encourage you to think, how can I make my contribution to my company more accessible, right? It really, it will just dramatically improve the velocity of your career progression or whatever you're doing. It's really, really important. And yeah, in this, in this day and age of hashtag portfolio is the new diploma, it's when you build things, like I said, technologies come up so quickly that in the end, in 5 years, no one's going to care that you knew the Kubernetes of 2018. What they will care about is what you did with it, what you built with it, and that stays. That's impressive. So ship stuff. So once you're here, let me just show you. So what this does, it hides the .env file. So I'm going to go to the code editor again. I'm in my native directory. I have my .env file one step higher. So you have it in example. What you need is your Telegram key for now. And if you have your Telegram key, you paste it here, this long thing, then you will be able to do echo bot. So either run it in the console or run it here. Yep, start polling. And now I'm going to, from my phone, I can also do it from the computer, but I'll do it from my phone. Find my bot and say, hi. No, I sent it to a channel. Let me say, hi. Yep. So you probably can't see because it's on my phone, but it told me what is my ID. But if I open it here, oh, I can make it bigger. Nice. So, hi. Who are you? It's echo bot. If you run it, it starts polling the bot that you created for new messages, and you can look it up what's in the code, but it will just echo what like your hello and tell you your ID. So copy that ID. Don't copy my ID. Copy that ID and place it in my Telegram number. You'll be able to send messages to yourself with the second script. Well, let's have a look here what's inside. So the API that powers this is AIOgram. It's asynchronous, and it's got like a really nice rich API. When you want to enhance it, you'll see that there's options for sending rich content like videos, photos, sound. So you can even write a thing that takes a sound bite and write your own Shazam, or just very simple. Send it to your bot. It does. I think it also does polls. You can set up Stripe with it. So that's why I chose it too, because it enables many things and it's accessible. It's free. Works really quick. I think the owner made a lot of money on a Russian version of Facebook, like hundreds of millions, and now he doesn't care to make that much more, apparently on this one at least. And it's a great product, which is free. So there's a dispatcher of a bot, message handler, and just an echo. Takes any message. You can write different handlers for different types of messages with regular expressions, with content types, with all sorts of stuff. So yeah, just look it up. We don't have that much time to cover it, but let's just move quickly. And I hope you've added your Telegram number. I'm going to shut down this situation and just publish. So the publisher, it's a bit more complicated, but it listens to the Redis messages, and then for every message in the channel, here it's the channel name is ready, uses Fire. This publisher essentially does an async listen and then push update, and is supposed to push it to the channel that I specified in Telegram. So for me is this channel here, and let me pipe a message with John Travolta, and let me see if no, it didn't come through. Sentiment, oh, entities is not defined. Okay, so that's what it is. I used the variable, but it's a keyword in this dict. So let's try again. Yeah, okay, came through. Telegram came through. My app came through. You can apply nice formatting. But yeah, someone said something negative about John Travolta. I gotta do something, I can drop what I'm doing and go out there and save the world now. But in the end, I had this idea, when you invest, it's said that dollar cost averaging is a smart idea, because instead of buying everything you want, like I have £1,000, for example, I want to set aside for my future. And I can buy £1,000 worth of Microsoft stock today, and I'm tied to this price. But if I spread out the buying over time, then over a month, let's say, then I'll buy for the average price of that month. So that kind of brings me some security, if there's a crash, because the trade talks with China were going well and not going well anymore, or whatever. So, for example, if you have a company that you like and you trust in it, and there's like a massive downfall one day, maybe you want to buy on that day, because you don't care. You're in it for the long run. So that's one use case that I had in mind. But yeah, just get creative and see what you can do, and I hope it's useful for you. And you can write some nice formatting. You can add another module for formatting. But without further ado, let's keep this running. It's my beautiful lab of 5 notebooks and 1 script. So it's not very, if I want to run it in the cloud, because I do this, I shut down my computer, and and my amazing service is not serving me anymore. So what I want to do is I want to orchestrate this, which leads us to slide about orchestration. So this is also useful. Yeah, I said making friends with the operations team. That's also massive in businesses. When you have your code and you send it to ops, and if you have the best of luck, the ops guys are like excited to help you. But I wish to work with such people. Sometimes the enthusiasm is maybe lower on their side, and if something that you proposed doesn't work immediately like that, then they come to you and say, why it doesn't work, or there's a bug or error, and they say, oh, there was an error, and like it's your fault. So you want to kind of be on good terms with them, also protect yourself from stressful events. So as if you package stuff well, this is a great investment, you know, for your team, for yourself, for the things you spend your time on. So what we're going to use Docker and Docker Compose. I hope you've installed them. If not, do it at home. Try it at home. It's really nice. And you can configure really sophisticated setups quickly. So let me go to the lab. Go to the last step and open here Docker Compose. That's what it looks like. It's a YAML, and it tells me just abstractly saying what I want in my system. Those are the services I want. I want the Redis consumer. I want Redis to serve as the message queue backend. I want a processor, probably another processor. I've actually bundled the two NLP things into one because I wanted to make it quicker to demo, but ideally they should be disentangled. And so I want these things, and I want the Telegram publisher, and they have a network they're sharing and some volumes, and yeah, it's really easy. Let's say I want to build a Docker image which is contained in the Docker file in Reddit consumer. So let me go in the Reddit consumer, click the Docker file. It's going to take miniconda, update conda, copy the environment from my directory into the virtual machine, create the environment, then activate it. These are some end things that just make the conda activate, not trigger errors. And then finally copy the content of my working directory into app, install it, and then run it. That's all there is. So, and you can like have all of this. You can just share it, put it on a VM, put it in the cloud, put it like probably on some app server too. You can have the image and just like save it. This was the version that I developed on that day. And I can just take it, run it. I don't need to have any, like, it's just ready, like a ready-made meal, bento. By the way, Docker builds this image sequentially, and it checkpoints on each step. So there is logic in the madness. You see the copy app is only at the end, because that lets me iterate quickly and not wait the ages that you will have to wait when you do Docker build for the first time. It's going to do the conda environment, building, downloading, pandas, downloading this, downloading that. Once you do it one time and you have the image cached, each time you change some code in your code base, it's just going to copy your code base. So start from line 11 and run much quicker. So that's what's happening underneath. Finally, yeah, so I want it to be fail-safe, so it fails somehow. I want it to restart. I want the container name of this image. So this recipe builds a container named Docker consumer, and the image tag is also, Reddit consumer. It depends on Redis DB, so if it starts, it needs to start after Redis DB. It uses the shared network backend, and then it has an environment variable, Redis DB for Redis URL, just so that all the services know Redis DB comes from here. It just like tells you, okay, I'm not looking at localhost, I'm looking at another URL. And this is the entry point command. So I want to do Reddit, so from the shell, Reddit consumer, put it on Redis onto channel comments. Then finally, Redis DB, so Redis Alpine, very small image. Backend, expose this port, map the ports if I want to also connect to it from localhost. And this is an exercise we can do together now. So let's uncomment this, container name, message, processor. You can be naughty and call it something else. Oh, that's actually in the next line. Dot links. So what are the links? It needs to link to Redis DB. And then it depends on Redis DB. Has the same environment situation as here. And then backend, network, entry point, bin bash. Yeah, it's gonna do it. Save it. Finally, Telegram publisher. You can also see, like, go into here and see how that differs from step 5. It's just the same publisher, but has an own N file in there. Has a Docker file. Downloads builds the environment. Cool. So now, I hope the curse of live demos doesn't get me. But let me start a new shell, teeny tiny shell, and do conda activate, and then cd Python. Okay, cd step 6, and all you need to do at this point is just do docker compose up. Ooh. External connectivity. Okay, so port is already allocated. I already have my other Redis going. So what I need to do is go back to step 1. Look at what I have here. Or maybe even better, there's a UI called Kitematic. I have these here things going. And let me stop and remove my delicious Reddit. So I've used it. I could also just do copy this and do docker stop. Sorry. And then docker rm. But I like nice UIs. Docker compose up. Done. Yes. So all my services are started. And I should be receiving a stream of messages to my Telegram, but I'm not. So let me pipe something. Let me see. Maybe it's the network. Let me try to do here the console. Yep. 0. No, I'm getting some messages. PyData London. Did someone copy my ID? Ooh, no, that's fine. I guess I'll forgive you. And we're 80 minutes in. So on that note, let me just, yeah, look, we've done it. It actually worked out. The curse didn't get me. Maybe it's like the people on our stocks are slow to write messages. But let me go to the conclusion slides. And we've done so many services. So consuming, message queue, pre-processing, and name entity recognition, sentiment classification, bundled it up, orchestrated the services. And yeah, I think we covered a lot. So I hope it was accessible. I hope it was easy to grasp. As long as you tried it, that's great. And you know, the intention is that it feels that like, oh, it's my knowledge. I know how to do it. You don't need to know the details, but you can like go learn about the details. It's not, none of this was, you know, very high difficulty. But it's good to see how all these things come together and make a solution easier to use and more accessible. Get you recognized. You can, you know, build a machine learning model, serve it easily through a mobile app. How many times you want to do hot dog, not hot dog, but you didn't have a framework to send your mobile phone pictures, right? So now you can do it with Telegram. Yeah, I think about it all the time. I wake up, it's like, is this a hot dog or not? Yeah, I gotta work on my jokes. Yeah, so if you have ideas to make the system better, use them. They're probably great ideas. This is far from perfect, but as every true perfectionist knows, there is no reaching perfection. So yeah, think about what you can contribute. Think about what you can do to build your portfolio. And yeah, think of the one thing that you learned today that you think really was the most valuable for you, the biggest thing that you can take and use after this conference. You're going to see a lot of cool stuff at this conference. Probably come up, I know usually I come out with a big head and try to remember everything, but it's only what you act on that in the end that matters, because this knowledge will be updated, changed. People will come up with new stuff. Yeah, so tell me, what did you like most? My voice? No. Someone liked something? Yeah? Yeah, please go ahead.
Oh, it was great seeing it all end to end. I think that was kind of fantastic.
Nice.
From an idea all the way through to that.
Appreciate it. Great. Thanks. I think so too. I think that was like the core intention. So I'm really happy you say that. Thank you. Cool. Yeah. Share your work. Please stay in touch with me. If you do something great, share, and I'll share it further. Yeah, really think of like what you can contribute, because people really want to see what you build. People really care, and you know, that's a great way to showcase what your initiative, your creativity, just to have fun too, right? It's like a hobby project, or you can do something with your, you know, younger sister, younger brother, get them excited about coding, yeah. And write a blog post if you want. That's another nice thing to do. So many times people like, there's this kind of way of development, like Stack Overflow driven development, where you just like look for solutions. So many times people find your blog post when they were looking for something, and it's really helpful. How many times have you used Stack Overflow? I use it all the time. I don't pretend to have a, you know, library of a brain. I know many things, but I can't remember all of them because I wouldn't have the RAM to have, you know, the actionable things. So write a blog post. People will appreciate it. Give yourself a chance. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you also like reach me on Slack, on PyData Slack. Get to meet one another as you're next to each other. Yeah. Thank you.